Welcome back. Paula Judith here with another amazing session. With us is Danika Bloom. Danika is a USA Today best-selling romance author and the founder of Author Ever After, an online membership community where she mentors romance writers who'd like support to finish and publish their first books. In addition to Danika's USA Today bestseller status, what impresses me is that she still uses a coach and meets with her mastermind peers weekly to ensure she's always learning and staying with her new, weird, and wonderful indie publishing trends and tips. Hello, Danika. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Paula Judith. Yes, weird and wonderful. That is the romance world, isn't it? I love it.
It is. Why don't you very briefly give us a little bit of your background?
So sure. My background pre-COVID, I will say, so many of us had career changes in March 2020. I spent over 25 years working as a mentor to small businesses through a credit union and building communities, also through a credit union, doing financial literacy with populations at risk and writing nonfiction. I've been a ghostwriter for nonprofits in Canada for that whole 25 years. So I published my first book in 2016, my first novel, which was a book of my heart. And then in 2020, I started publishing romance, and I've published nonfiction as well. So where I am now is just a blend of basically my entire adult working life coming together and having the fabulous opportunity of just choosing to work with the people I love working with most, which is romance authors, because they're so fun.
Oh, yeah, we are fun, aren't we?
We are.
What is the biggest mistake that you think authors make when they are starting out?
I believe that the biggest mistake we make is believing that we have to have a book published before we ourselves present as romance authors. And this goes for all genres, but I did this myself, and I in the community see this. I've been leading communities of authors for over 5 years in an online situation, and people come in not yet calling themselves an author because they haven't published. So mistake number one is not claiming yourself as an author, and mistake number two is then not starting to build your online presence as an author even before your book is published. I think there's so much that goes into launching a first book that if you've already established yourself online as an author, it makes it so much easier when that big project that you want to publish is ready to go.
You are so correct there, Danika. And that is kind of a mantra that I hear from everybody. I hear it from not only writers, but I hear it from publishers and book promoters also. So you're correct there. Is there one big thing that you think people should focus on when they are writing their first novel?
I mean, there are many things that we can focus on, and I know you'll be speaking to many people who are more craft oriented in the services that they provide to romance authors. So I will leave the craft conversation to them. But from my perspective, I think one thing that we should focus on is what our goals are with our first novel. It is a beautiful thing. Virtually every author who I meet who is pre-published, I like to think of them as pre-published authors, come in with a belief that their first book is going to light the world on fire. I did the same. Like my first book, I loved it so much, I thought it was going to do far more than it actually could do. And if I had a plan or an idea in my head about what the reality of a first book launch is, it would have made the come down after the launch a whole lot easier, basically, because I don't know if you have this, Paula Judith, but even now I've published 13 books, and each time there's this letdown, this kind of like there's exhaustion after a launch. So I guess that's one thing people should focus on, is be prepared to be exhausted after you launch. But the other thing is have expectations that are in line with where you are in your career and with the resources that you have behind the launch, because that letdown can just be really hard.
Yeah, I think expectations is huge. My expectations with my first novel was I'll put it up on Amazon and it will sell millions.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that enthusiasm and confidence that I see. And it's a really hard conversation to have with authors who come into my community to say, this is a great book. And like I read a lot of what comes in through my members, and I'll say this is a good book, but you have to understand the environment that you're publishing into. So it's not a you thing, it's an environment thing, and dial it back. Please dial it back so you're not disappointed.
You're absolutely correct in that respect. Expectations, I think when it comes to expectations in any aspect of writing, publishing, promoting, is not to be negative about it, but to realize that it is a long process. It isn't a case of, okay, it took me 2 years to write this book. I've got it. I'm going to publish it. Yay, it's done. That's just the beginning. It
Yes.
truly is just the beginning. Okay, Danica, you have launched more books than me. So tell me, what should people know? What should authors know about launching their books?
Ah, good question. This is something that I get really passionate about. I would love authors to know that although there are lots of details in doing a book launch, it's not hard, and that you can do it yourself. Every step of the way, you can either do the work yourself, or if you're bootstrapping, you can find places and people that will do the different parts for you on a budget. I have seen, and I am seeing more and more service providers who are charging like $10,000 minimum, up to $25,000 to help authors launch their first book. And that's fabulous for certain types of books. But for us as romance authors, especially if we're looking at building a career out of writing books, I believe it's really critical that you learn how to do all of the steps yourself, because otherwise you will never be able to earn a viable income from this. When I launched my first book, I hired somebody to do all of the tasks for me because I was scared. I didn't know how to do them and I was overwhelmed. And I just want to say, and so then when it came to my second book, I was like, I was starting from scratch again. And I want to say, you can do this. So that is my biggest message: is find a resource or a person or an organization, and summits like this one that give you valuable current information, and put together a plan so that you can actually do each of the pieces. Nothing is hard. It's just a little fiddly. You hear words like metadata and you think, I don't know what the metadata is, and you get intimidated. Don't be intimidated. There are folks who can help you with that. Uploading to Amazon, really easy. It's a pretty easy thing to do. Taking an ebook cover that you've had professionally designed and turning it into a paperback so that you can have that as well, which I really recommend even when you launch. It's not hard if you have a sort of a tool like Canva or PicMonkey, which are inexpensive tools that you can get. So I just want to empower authors to like DIY as much as they can, because you can. I know you can.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful advice, Danica. Having been bootstrapped the very first time, I did all the pieces myself. And some of them were right and some of them weren't so right. My cover on my first novel, I've changed it twice. I finally have, the third cover was finally the right cover. My second novel, I changed it once, and
it's yeah.
no, I changed that one twice too. Okay, yeah, and covers are kind of, definitely get a pro to put it together for you who knows what they're doing. They're familiar with the genre.
Yes.
But things like formatting, the 4 books that I have published, I formatted them all, and it finally dawned on me, I know how to format, so I know what looks good and what works, but I don't have to do it now. Now I can hire that done
Yeah.
and have the product good. If you don't do some of it yourself, you don't know whether or not what you're getting back is good. I mentored a woman through Romance Writers of America on the RAMP program, the very first gal that I mentored. And she sent me her manuscript to start reviewing. And she said it had been edited twice. It was really clean. Oh my gosh. I told her she should get her money back from both of those
No.
editors because it it required a lot of work to edit
Yeah.
it and get it ready. So very definitely, when you pay for somebody to do something, have a general idea of if whether or not they're doing their work correctly. So thank you for giving that advice about you can do it yourself. And I think for a lot of things, people should do it themselves, at least at the beginning.
And to know what something takes, right? Formatting, yeah, is one of those things where if I see somebody charging more than $200 to format a romance novel, I think you're not you're paying for more than you should pay.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right there. Okay, so when we think about writing a novel and launching it, and I mean that is such a broad subject right there. You know, you've got to get all the pieces together on your first novel, and you help people with you help people that are launching their first or their second novel. So um, let me ask you, when people come to you, where do they usually start?
Usually they start at the place where they've got a draft or part of a draft of a romance written, and they go through all of the stages of I love my book, I hate my book, I don't know if I'm actually a writer, and I do a lot of mindset work with romance authors. In fact, weekly I have a motivation and accountability mastermind where members come and troubleshoot story problems or mindset problems. So where I love to start is with authors who have already got something written. They know the romance genre. Sometimes they know what subgenre they're writing in, and sometimes they don't. And they have a desire to publish. I was the vice president of the RWA in Vancouver, British Columbia, for 2 terms, and a member for 10 years. And of the members, there were about 50 regular members. And more than half of them had no intention of ever publishing. They just loved hanging out with romance writers. They wrote romance as a hobby. So and romance hobbyists, fantastic, but they're not the folks that I serve. The people I'm serving are the ones who actually have a desire to publish and have a desire to publish more than once. So to turn this into a side income, something that they can use, to support their kids playing soccer or whatever, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So somebody knows that they want to write at least one or more romance novels. They've got something started. They need a little bit of mindset help or a little bit of bantering back and forth to make sure that they're on the right track. So now they have finished their novel. So now what's the next step that they do?
Okay, well, before they've even finished, while they're still bantering back and forth with it, I am doing things like helping them set up a website. A simple 1-page website. They don't have a book published, that doesn't matter. I want them to have a public presence. I want them to have a URL. I want them, the very first thing, I want them to pick their pen name. So often they haven't picked a pen name yet. So we go through a process to make sure the pen name is going to be effective for them. When I was looking for Danika Bloom is a pen name, and when I was trying to figure out my pen name, I went through so many, and I had many published romance author friends, and every time I'd give them a name, they'd say, "Oh, that sounds like a historical romance writer," or "Oh, that sounds like a Harlequin writer," and I knew I was none of those things, and so it took a while to come up with the right name. So we figure out what an appropriate pen name is if they're not going to be using the real name. I get them to set up all of their social media accounts in their pen name, to do some brand work, figure out what they want to look like when they're public on their social accounts. And they don't have to be posting a lot. We're just getting in place all of the pieces that they'll need to have in place once they publish, but we're doing it early and letting them start to get used to the feeling of being out there as a published or as a pre-published author, right? Claiming the title, I am a romance author, and gaining the confidence to do that. So, and then there are lots of things. And so then setting up their email so that they can start collecting names because they want to have an email list. All of the things that a published author should have in place, we do that while they're still working on their novels.
I think that's excellent advice. Um, because you're right. There are so many people who say that I haven't published it, therefore I'm not an author, but that isn't true. The fact that they are in the process of writing makes them an author. And I, for one, waited 10 years after I published my first book before I even started an email list, because it's like, my life is so boring. Who wants to know anything about my life? I'm amazed at the people who find me fascinating.
Yeah.
And and I'm quite sure that every single person out there who's writing romance has something about them that is fascinating to someone else.
Absolutely.
So I think
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Okay, so we now have a novel or a novel in progress, a pen name, social media. Maybe we have finished our novel. Where are we now?
So now you've finished your novel, and I'm helping you do things like, so you're writing your email sequence so that, well, we're figuring out what we're going to put in your front and back matter of your book. And in fact, we're saying novel, but I really recommend that the authors in the community, that in my community, launch first with something shorter, with a novella that they can tie to their novel, this work of their heart, if they can, because I want them to get onto Book Funnel. I want them to get onto Story Origin. I want them to start collecting those names. And a novella is a really great way to do that. So I get them out there connecting with other authors. And that piece, connecting with other authors who write in their subgenre, so that when their novel is ready to launch, they have those connections, and those other authors will be out there sharing their work. So there's a lot of relationship building. I mean, and it comes back to my whole career working in the nonprofit sector as a community builder. I can't not do that. So with the authors in my community, I'm like, oh, you have to connect with this person and this person. And I'm helping them do that.
Okay, that's great. When I started out, because I was in a very small town, it was before the internet. The only thing that there was for authors was a little author group that we met once a month. And I was the only romance author in there. And of course,
Yeah.
they all poo-pooed romance. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So community, I do understand the value of that. And it's something that I wish I had had more opportunity back when I started. So, okay. So we're still pre-launch, I take it.
Well, yeah, we're still pre-launch. And so then when it comes to the launch, I guess you wanted, when it comes time to launch, um, so I have had authors in the community. The Author Ever After community itself launched in September 2022, and 3 members have published. I am there as a cheerleader at that point, while helping with beta, like finding beta readers, helping them understand how to get enough ARC readers so that they launch with reviews. And I have a membership to NetGalley, which I will let my members use so that they can reach the NetGalley ARC readers. At that point, it's over to them to do the hard work, to start reaching out to social media. And over the period of, the months before, I've been encouraging them to start following, if they're writing dark or some sort of really steamy, spicy, over on Book Talk is a great place to be, or to be on Instagram and be following the people who are reviewing books, liking them, so that when it comes time to actually launch their book, they can then reach out to those people who they've been following and liking and commenting, and they will be received, with a, yes, I would love to read your ARC, and then promote that. So,
No, I understand that you feel this kind of a special little place in the whole writing spectrum. I mean, you have your writing coaches, and you have everybody on the other end, the marketing and that kind of stuff, but there's always that stuff in between, okay, I'm writing something and I'm not ready to publish, or I'm getting really close to it, and all those things in between that a person needs to be doing to be successful in their launches. And I think that's absolutely fascinating. I'm quite sure that anybody could take hours and hours and hours, or days or weeks or months of their time to research all of this stuff and hope, that
Mhm.
they are putting it all together correctly. But it's very nice to actually have a place to start,
Yeah.
to have a person that already has those connections together. So you have Author Ever After, and you have a particular project, I believe, the Passion Project to publish. And is that what we've been talking about?
We have sort of. So yes, Passion Project to Published is a done with you program that I have. So the Author Ever After community is kind of, it's a me and you with a small group, which makes it affordable, right? So I do the mentorship in small group through office hours every 2 weeks, the mastermind once a week, and then I bring in like editors. For instance, it's in the fall of 2023, I brought in 8 editors so that they could meet different editors and start to get a feel for, oh, I think I might work well with that person, and other experts. So that is the Author Ever After. Passion Project to Published is the done with you. So I kind of, there's I mentioned the done for you services where people are charging literally $10,000 to do all of that work for you, and not as well as you do it yourself, because nobody will love your book as much as you do. What I do in the Passion Project to Published is like sit shoulder to shoulder with you. Online, we will do all of the things. Build your website, where I will build it with you. We'll be on Zoom together, and I will do you will write your newsletter or your automation, your email automation, but I will help you with all the tech with you so that you see how it's done and you're not wasting time. And it's an investment. It's a pretty big investment of time. I also provide all of my swipe files. So everything that I use to launch my own books and to build my own community, I share that as well, because honestly, it took me so long to figure out what all the pieces were. And there's no reason why we should keep, every author should have to do this. It doesn't make sense for us to be investing our time in doing things that have been done hundreds of times by other people. So that's part of what I would give you.
All right. All right. Well, that's great. And I do
It's fun.
understand now. Yeah. I understand now the whole difference between done with you and giving you the information for you to do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We have covered what you do in your business, who you help in your business. So on your website, do you have any tools that are people can access to help them get more familiar with you and things of that
I
nature?
do. I do. I have a document that you can download. It's a really comprehensive toolkit. I call it Romance Your Launch. And in that file, I have given you access to metadata. It's basically a swipe file. It's kind of like a dozen different swipe my blah. So let's see, I have a list. Swipe my book launch budget planner, swipe my newsletter sign up form, swipe my on and on and on. So it's all of the different things that you could be helpful to you when you're launching your first book, so that you don't have to recreate the wheel. And that's
All
for free
right.
for anybody.
All right. Well, that's great. I'm going to have to visit your website. And I hope everybody else does too. We have a link to your website below. And is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience?
I just want to say, claim your place as an author, even if you haven't published yet. If you can, make this your mantra, put it somewhere, say, I am a romance author, and start to claim that now. And have the confidence to know that you can indie publish. If that is what you want to do, if self-publishing is the track that you want to take, know that you can do this. And anybody who says you need more than your own brains, I'm trying to think of like a Dr. Seuss thing, you've got your 2 feet and you've got your brains, you can do this. I know you can. So that is that is what I want to say. Just go forward with confidence.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Danica. I appreciate all the information that you have given us today.
Thank you so much, Paula, Judith, and fabulous, fabulous summit. Thank you so much for hosting this.